Dear guests, we're gonna start now.
Our event. Thank you for visiting us. Thank you for spending your evening with us at the Kyiv School of Economics. I will kick off our meeting with a quick introduction, and then I will pass the microphone to our honorable guest. So welcome. My name is Timothy Brick. It is a big honor for us to welcome you on the premises of Kyiv School of Economics. We always are very happy to support our partners and to support activities that promote science and research. My name is Timothy Brick. I work as the rector of this university. What can I say? I will not take a lot of your time. I just want to say that, from the very beginning of the invasion, this university has committed to the idea that research and science is important. It is crucial for resilience of Ukraine. It is crucial for our future. So we have committed to stay in Kyiv and to teach offline and to open new academic and study programs. Before the invasion, this university had 150 students, and now it has 1,000 students. So we grew 10 times during the past 3 years, and I think this increase has been possible only with the support of international community, with the support of great talents and scholars and researchers here in Ukraine, but also in the European Union and United States, and we're very grateful for the partnership. And this, the institute which is running this event today, the Institute for Advanced Studies, I think we share a lot of values and we share a lot of values, and we believe in the same things. We believe that incubating talent is very important. During the war, it is crucial to identify talented Ukrainians who possess human capital, who possess social capital, and allow them to be, to be themselves, to remain human beings, to remain scholars, just to have this opportunity to work on their research and to work on the scientific contributions. So we know that it actually matters. Then human capital and the innovations and science which they produce will eventually help our society and our country and maybe even, the world to be a bit better. And we support the very concept of this institute. And as I said, we are very honored to share stage with you, and I hope that we will do more things together in the future. Some of our fellows have already collaborated with you, and I hope that it will continue. And with this quick opening statement, I also would like to invite Your Excellency, the Ambassador of Germany, to the stage and to give some opening remarks. Thank you. Well, I apologize. I broke the rules and the agenda, so I apologize.
That's no problem. Thank you, Timothy. Thank you also for the opportunity to be here, for being our host. Dear Ambassador Jäger, dear Vice Minister Winitsky, dear General Secretary Schütte in absentia, dear Professor Kubik, there he is, dear Professor Libanova, dear Smati Shibashvili, dear representatives of VUIAS partners in Ukraine, in Europe, and in the United States, dear VUIAS Fellows, this is what you are becoming with this inaugural day, both those who are in the room and those others that you see there on the screen that are with us today on Zoom, and dear guests. Przyszczu witają was z początkiem nawczalnego roku 2024-25.
Sincerely congratulate you on the beginning of the academic year 2024-2025.
Sentence in Ukrainian, but because after a month of meticulous selection work, the 32 fellows of the second cohort of the virtual Ukraine Institute for Advanced Study are actually coming together. A very warm welcome to all, and thank you again to our partner, the KSE, for being our host for this evening. What is an Institute for Advanced Study? Abraham Flexner, the founding director of the first Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, in 1939 explained his basic idea in an influential essay entitled The Usefulness of Useless Knowledge. Flexner stresses the fact that blue sky research, seemingly without an immediate purpose, can uncover solutions to problems of which we don't even know that we will have them in the future. He writes, institution of learning should be devoted to the cultivation of curiosity, and the less they are deflected by considerations of immediacy of application, the more likely they are to contribute to human welfare. Institutes of advanced study in the entire world have started from this premise, and they continue to bring together brilliant minds to give them time, space, and freedom to think. They thus create conditions under which encounters of diverse academic cultures and disciplines can spark new ideas. The global success story of this institutional type has fully started only quite recently, actually around the year 2000. Since then, in a landscape of rising global competition in research, some 200 new institutes for advanced study have been founded all around the world, with a particular dynamic development in the emerging academic landscapes of Asia. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we meet under somber circumstances. While we speak, Russia's invasion of Ukraine rages on. In these challenging times, Flexner's concept of uselessness may feel like luxuries and even naive. War imposes immediate and pressing needs. In response, we have adapted the institutional model of our IIS. VUIAS was born out of the will to help to maintain the excellence of Ukrainian academia in the context of war, to combat the brain drain, to strengthen bonds between Ukrainian, German, and international researchers, and to deepen the global understanding of Ukraine. In the context of war, it was also important to ignore Flexner's initial intuition to some extent and to ensure that applied research is well represented at VUIAS while still leaving room for blue sky research and free interdisciplinary encounters. A heartfelt thank goes to our main funder, the Volkswagen Foundation, for believing in these ideas from the start. And also, of course, to the first cohort of VUIAS Fellows, who has more than justified our initial decisions. Currently, VUIAS is a virtual institution, but we are actively working towards establishing a real institute here in Kiev, the VUIAS. We will be working to drop the V over the next years. We are delighted to already have an office located at the Institute of Sociology of the Kiev Academy of Sciences, and we have a dedicated team in the city. I want to express my deep gratitude to the entire team, first and foremost our academic head coordinator, Victoria Sereda, for all her great work, to Marina Mamuta, Maxim Hiskevich, Wiebke Güse, and Vera Kemper, who have done outstanding work to bring this project and this event about. With that same energy, we will push forward, working to create a new institution and an alliance here in Kiev, where fellows can work, exchange ideas, and foster innovations. We are striving to add a new landmark to the global landscape of institutes for advanced study, a lighthouse that will shine bright and will be visible from far. We are inspired by the hope that one day there'll be a place in the Ukrainian capital where, like in the vibrant halls of the Princeton Institute, scholars greet each other quite casually with the question, any major breakthroughs today? I want to conclude just with a short organizational announcement. As we are not sure of alarms, I wanted to announce that the exit to the shelter is actually in the back to your right, and you'll be guided downstairs to the basement. Also, I have to announce that the mayor of Kiev, who had originally agreed to come, was unfortunately unavailable tonight, so he will not be with us tonight. But it is with the greatest pleasure that I turn to Ambassador Jäger for a greeting. Thank you so much for coming, and the floor is yours.
Good evening, dear Honorable Rector, dear Timothy, where is he? There. Dear Vice Minister, dear Professor Schönpflug, dear Professor Victoria Sereda, and dear fellows of the Virtual Ukraine Institute for Advanced Studies, VUIAS. This is an abbreviation, incredible. I'm very glad to be here tonight. This is a very special opportunity for an ambassador. I did appreciate Professor Schönpflug's notion of, how you put it, concept of total usefulness. This is a concept I really liked. Unfortunately, this does not at all reflect the professional reality of an ambassador in Ukraine. We try to be as useful as possible. And hopefully we are, because we closely stand by our Ukrainian friends and we support the Ukrainian fight against the Russian aggression. Germany is, as you are all well aware of, is very active in this field. We support Ukraine in the field of military support, namely air defense. We do it on finance and also on the humanitarian side. And we are also active in the field of academic cooperation. Today, we celebrate the opening of the second academic year, which is good. So this is not an opening, not a beginning. This is the opening of the second academic year, and everything that happens a second time is almost already a tradition. So I'm very glad that we can do that tonight. And despite the enormous losses caused by the Russian war of aggression, Ukrainian schools and universities are continuing their mission in education and research. And Germany stands with the educational and scientific institutions in this country, and we will continue to do so. Education and research are also in the focus of our assistance and cooperation. More than 200,000 Ukrainian pupils and 13,000 students are currently attending schools and universities in Germany. This is very important. We are glad that we can provide these young people with this support, and I'm absolutely convinced that they are a future bridge between our countries. 1,300 scientists got the possibility to conduct their research in Germany further. And it is of vital importance to us to give them a possibility to keep their links to Ukraine, to secure their academic and research career uninterrupted, because they need to be prepared for the active role they are going to take in the recovery of Ukraine. Because we must also think about the future. We fight today's war, but there will be a future in the life after the war when Ukraine will be a member of the European Union, will also be a member of NATO. Let me just add that to be very clear. And there will be a huge reconstruction and recovery process that will be launched, and that can only be done when we can rely on educated and experienced experts and people. In this context, an important component of our aid aims on the universities and research institutions, students and scientists working and staying here in Ukraine. This is the main focus, yeah. And this is why I really applaud and praise the initiative of the Wissenschaftskolleg in Berlin. Your decision to initiate the foundation of the Ukrainian Institute for Advanced Studies in Ukraine is important. It's really necessary and essential that it's been done in the country. And I'm very sure that this will be and is a good example how the combination of fellowships abroad and fellowships in Ukraine can work. I welcome this initiative, and Professor Schönpflug, as you put it, hopefully we can soon skip the V, yeah, and have an institute and colleague working here on a solid basis in Ukraine and being a partner for many other institutions worldwide. In this sense, today's opening of the academic year here in Kiev is a very symbolic step we take. And this step could not have been taken without the active and important support of the Volkswagen Stiftung. And this is why I would like to thank Georg Schütte, the Secretary General of the Volkswagen Stiftung, that he makes this contribution. Georg has been a friend of mine for quite a long. We served both as state secretaries in the federal government, and today I try to make my contribution as an ambassador here in Kiev, and Georg is heading the Volkswagen Stiftung, and I'm very glad that our both paths are crossing here in Kiev tonight. October is a special moment, and of course in the field, in the world of academia, this is always related to the start of the new academic session. But there has also been a kind of a new season in our bilateral cooperation in the field of education and research and science. We signed, not we, our federal minister and Bettina Stark-Watzinger and the Ukrainian Minister of Education and Science, Lisovi, they signed a new cooperation agreement a few days ago here in Kiev. And this was an important milestone. The old treaty dated back to the Soviet Union times. So it was, I think, almost 40 years old. And we completely remodeled and redid it. And now we have a new basis for our future bilateral cooperation. I could mention many more activities in the field of science, research, education. I will not do that because I promised to keep my speed very short. So let me conclude by just highlighting the fact that research and academic cooperation, they live from exchange. They live from discussion and free deliberation. And I hope that the personal networks created by VUIAS will make an important and really helpful contribution to that. And I'm glad we have the fellows here present online. We can see you on the screen there. but also to have this year's fellows here being present in this wonderful place. And I was also told there are already the first alumni here tonight. This is fantastic. So I get back to my tradition point. Let's do it 1 or 2 more years, and then it's really a tradition. And we cannot figure out a world without VUIAS, but at some point, again, VUIAS will be VUIAS, and then we will have achieved our game. I wish you all a lot of success. Whatever the German government, the German embassy can do to support you, we are happy to do it. And I'm looking forward to engage in more discussions about all the topics you're going to raise here tonight in the future. Unfortunately, and here comes the disclaimer, I can't stay with you tonight because today is a very special day. Today is the National Day of Austria. And it is totally unimaginable, unacceptable that a German ambassador would not show up at the National Day reception of Austria, because that would create very, very difficult diplomatic trouble. So I will have to leave you very soon tonight to see our friends from Österreich. But what I would like to suggest is that at some point, Michael Lischenko is with me. He is the guy running the business in our embassy. Maybe we can have a discussion with the fellows at some point. Not before Christmas, but sometime in spring we meet and I can see what kind of progress you make and in what fields you work. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here, and I wish you all the best and a lot of success. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these warm words of welcome. And with that, I invite Mikhail Vinitsky, Deputy Minister of Education and Science of Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And particularly thank you, Your Excellency, for everything that Germany has done, will continue to do. I'm particularly pleased that 2 days ago, we had the opportunity to sign really a historic agreement between the Minister of Education and Science of the Federal Republic of Germany and Oksana Suvey, the Minister of Education and Science of Ukraine. I think that today's opening, if you like, of the second cohort, announcement of the second cohort, is a good continuation of that cooperation. I want to tell you folks a little story. Danielle, who's hosting tonight, in case you missed his name, and I met 2 years ago, but 2 days ago we met for the first time in person. 2 years ago we met online. And he presented at the time, I remember, together with other Wissenschaftskolleg, a very strange idea of this virtual Ukrainian Institute of Advanced Study. It sounded something very, very strange. But it did somehow reverberate with me, because the idea of useless knowledge is something that I'm all about. I think it's fantastic if you have the privilege of dealing with useless knowledge. And I remember at the time, I was very much planning on my next trip to get away and actually work on my next book about useless knowledge. It was supposed to be on something called heterarchy. For those of you that are interested in sociology, perhaps you can look it up, but it's not particularly important because it's useless. I was trying to explain, in fact, the social structures that were at the foundation, in my opinion, of the resistance of Ukraine and Ukrainian society to the Russian invasion, full-scale invasion in February of 2022. I was doing that book. I was preparing myself for a trip to Harvard. And we had several conversations while I was at Harvard. And then I got a phone call about 2 weeks before, well, I got a phone call first from Oksana Markarova, then from Oksana Suvey, then from a fellow you may have heard of, his name is Volodymyr Zelensky, to do something useful rather than doing useless things. And at that point in time, I had to leave the board that was set up for VUIAS. And I'm actually quite sad that I did that, because I think that this was a project that I would have liked to have been involved with from the very beginning until today. Unfortunately, that wasn't possible. But I was extremely pleased to learn that Victoria Sereda, who I've known for, probably over 20 years, was nominated as the coordinator, and that she was able to put together with the Wissenschaftskolleg, the first cohort, which obviously was extremely successful. Georg Schütte, who I had the honor of meeting a couple days ago, is obviously someone that I think you will see in a few minutes, at least on video, is someone that I have met in a new capacity and now is obviously very, very keen on making this project work. So the Volkswagen Foundation is something that is absolutely key to making sure that this Institute for Advanced Study, like many other institutes, gets off the ground. Throughout 2022 and up to 2024, be it in my capacity as Vice President of Cave Mohila Academy, where I was part of the European University Association Task Force, be it as a blogger, as an academic, doesn't matter, as Deputy Minister now, I have been always talking about the importance of virtual help, virtual study. At this particular moment in history, we are faced with having to present Ukrainian excellence in a way that is unfortunately not physically, very often, is not about physical interaction, but is about virtual interaction. Ukraine, in fact, has much to offer in terms of resilience, in terms of innovation, in terms of being fiercely independent. And this is precisely what was mentioned today by Danielle about major breakthroughs. I think we as Ukrainians very often don't think of these things as major breakthroughs. We have a great deal to offer, and we can offer that to the world by sharing it first and foremost with each other. So I welcome the second cohort, who is now opening today, or starting their journey today. We need your major breakthroughs. I remind you that we have a war to win, and we need our brains at home working towards our victory. Thank you, each and every one of you, for what you are doing.
Thank you so much for these engaging words. We'll now hear a word of greeting from Georg Schütte, who has already been mentioned several times. He was here in Kiev until Tuesday, but then had to return, so he recorded a video message for us that we can hopefully see now.
A warm welcome from the Volkswagen Foundation in Hanover in Germany. I'm not with you today and I apologize for this. A virtual Institute of Advanced Studies paves the way to meet virtually, and yet it would be much better to be together in person. At the time when we record this video message, I'm supposed to travel to Kiev in 4 days from now. Next Tuesday, 2 days before you meet in Kiev, I'm supposed to be in your city. I'm part of a delegation of the German government, of the Federal Ministry of Education and Research, to sign a bilateral and binational treaty on mutual cooperation in research and technology. The Virtual Ukrainian Institute of Advanced Studies unfolds its activities in the framework of this treaty. But we started prior to the signature. We started 1 year ago when the Institute was founded at a meeting in Berlin. I was there at the founding meeting, and we were optimistic that in a year from then, we would be closer to an opportunity to collaborate in a peaceful environment. Alas, This is not true. The Russian war of aggression continues and puts more hardship on you, on the Ukrainian people, and on the country as a whole. Let's stay optimistic. We know how hard it is. We cannot even imagine the hardship that has to be borne by the Ukrainian people, but we will try to do our best in supporting you during these days, weeks, and months, and in staying optimistic that there will be a time when the bridges that we start to build now are stable enough to start and continue the activities of the institutes in a real institute in Kiev. I would be happy to join you at the next meeting, and let's hope that this is going to be a meeting in a more peaceful time than it is today. Thank you for your support. I wish you all the best for your activities. Let's stay optimistic and let's build bridges into a more peaceful future.
And after these greetings, we pass on to Victoria Sereda, our head coordinator, and she'll give you a glimpse into the program, a few more details so that you know what we're talking about.
Dear guests, honorable guests, dear fellows, first of all, I would like to start with a moment of silence to pay tribute to those scholars and people from Ukrainian academia who first of all gave their lives for the possibility of us to do the resilience and to continue what we are doing now today and will be doing in the future, and also to those who are today in the front line with their work there, giving us possibility to talk about scholarships and science and Ukraine's future. Thank you everybody for coming, and thank you for giving me a possibility to talk and present the project, which has a little bit more than 1 year. So we are very, very new, and we are proud of what was happening to us, and we want together with you reflect a little bit about our project. So as you already learned, we have a team which works online and offline. We have team, and 4 people from this team are present tonight in this room. We also have our, as you heard, but now you can see how it looks like. We have an office in Kyiv, a small space, but this space is good for us because it hosts both coordinators and can host our fellows, because they do not have electricity cuts in this premises. We also managed to launch, with the help of our team, already our virtual or digital working environment. So we both have a web page and we have our special online working space where we work together and can create additional working groups. We have partners. You have a list of partners on the back side of the brochures, so you can have a glimpse on them. And we came here and spent this week also trying hard to build even further our cooperation networks, and this is only beginning for us in Ukraine, because for the Institute it's extremely important that we are not only part of international framework, but a part of very strong internal Ukrainian network of institutions and universities. The project has set certain aims which are important for us, and first of all, mobilizing support for the scholarships under condition of war. And when we were starting our project, we had only 6 scholarships, and within the few months, we managed to raise the number to 22. And this year, we are already offering 32 scholarships. So we are on our way to mobilize support of Ukrainian scholars, especially in Ukraine, as much as we could. We're also preparing foundations for the future Institute of Advanced Studies in Ukraine. And we are shaping a very unique community of scholars who are both either displaced and residing outside of the country or residing inside of the country, and create a virtual working space. For us, it's very important that our project aims combating brain drain, but also gender disparities, about which we very little hear recently, happening in Ukrainian academia, caused by war and displacement. We also want to integrate Ukrainian scholars into international academic landscape, but also broadening knowledge about Ukraine and scholarship done by Ukrainian academics within the global academia. And we are building a coalition of institutes of advanced studies to support academic integration of Ukraine in the future. So what our activities are? We have a secure digital infrastructure. We have co-working space. We have access to library resources, coaching for publications, and we are organizing a lot of events. So last year we had 22 sessions of our interdisciplinary colloquium. We had many events happening in premises in different parts of the region, including Ukraine. And we had coaching. And of course, what is very important and interesting for us, who are those scholars? Because we are talking about you sitting here, but who are the scholars? And so we received the first year 530 applications, and the next year we received 630 applications. So applications came from these parts of the Ukraine, but there was not a single oblast or part of Ukraine from which we would not receive an application. And these are the disciplines from which these applications were arriving, and you can see that more or less the picture was similar in 2022, 23 and 24, with the highest number coming from economics, history, engineering, linguistics and literature, and other disciplines. For this, we had to very think and rethink carefully how to proceed with the selection, because this is very important that selection procedure with such high number of applications should be professional and should be transparent. So we have 3 steps. We created a new software, and we were building up, again, network of experts who could help us with the selection procedure. If we look what came out of this selection procedure, we have now 32 scholars, 18 in Ukraine and 14 out of Ukraine, representing 17 different disciplines and representing 26 academic institutions in Ukraine. So our network is really very broad. We have perfect gender ratio, as you can observe. And these are regions from which we have scholars. So we have scholars from 13 cities, 11 in Ukraine, and you have a number of scholars coming from each of particular city. And if we look at some other characteristics, we have, again, equal ratio of senior or mid-career scholars and junior scholars. And we have a majority of our scholars coming within the age cohorts between 36 and 55. And we have a little bit disproportion in terms of the division of certain groups of sciences. So social sciences and humanities are a little bit dominating over the natural sciences. But this is connected to the fact that some of our partner institutes outside of Ukraine have a specialization, and only few of them specialize in natural sciences. And we are proud to announce a new call, and we already know that by today we received 54 applications. So please spread the word among your colleagues, because we are starting to select a new cohort pretty soon. And I wanted to invite to this stage our fellow, who was our fellow last year, but she also connects so many dots, being active with pupils in Malacademia Nauk, creating absolutely new program in Lviv National University of Ivan Franko, and doing excellent research and receiving so many awards for her research. So I don't even know how she manages to connect everything and have so much resilience and energy for all these possibilities and steps. So Christina Gnatenko, who is the youngest professor in Ukraine.
Many thanks, Victoria, for this introduction. Many thanks for this fascinating event. So it's very impressive to be here. And what about the Institute for Advanced Studies and my experience with this institute? First of all, I would like to thank that I am grateful. I am grateful to all members of this institute for the support of our scientific research. I love and I'm deeply passionate in science. In my work, I see very nice possibility to share this love with students, but institute gave me possibility to share this love with other scientists from very different disciplines. So I had possibility to listen to seminars, for instance, in the frame of sociology problems and other problems, and it was very interesting for me to get to know about all these things that are doing in different subjects. Also, I love children, I love students, and I love high school students. And every time when I ask VUIAS, could you please help me in organizing some event? Every time I obtained very quick response. Yes, of course. And it was fascinating to understand that I can do, with the help of VUIAS, pleasant things for our students and our high school students. It was, for instance, World Quantum Day and also School of Quantum Programming. Also, I would like to say that today we will listen to music, and it is very impressive that in the frame of VUIAS events, we very often listen fascinating composers. So many thanks for this. What about my project and the support of this project? So the project is devoted to studies of properties of graphs with quantum programming. And quantum programming is an area which is very important nowadays, because with the help of quantum programming, in future, we can do different things and we can solve practical problems, logistical problems, problems of medicine, and so on. And VUIAS helped me to do my research. So many thanks all of you for this support. Many thanks all of you for this atmosphere, because VUIAS is also about communication. So we can communicate even if we are in different countries, even if we do not deeply understand the subject of our research, but we can communicate and we can share the emotions, and we can do it constantly due to VUIAS. Many, many thanks, all of you. Many, many thanks. Many.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to you our first keynote speaker, distinguished professor of Rutgers University, Jan Kubik, with his lecture, Polarization, Democracy, and War. Jan Kubik works on interplay between power, policies, and culture, protest policies and social movements, and post-communist transformations. Professor, floor is yours.
Does it work? Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. But first, I want to say that this is an incredibly moving and important thing for me. I'm very happy that I managed to come here. It is an honor, a privilege. I am pretty humbled by this invitation. I was asked to talk about my work, and in order to sort of try to move away from what's happening on the ground. So I guess those concepts that were introduced earlier of useless and useful knowledge, they have something to do with what I will try to do. I study the rise of right-wing populism the last several years around the world, particularly in Central Europe, but not only, and also a bit in my own country at the moment, United States. The phenomenon that is absolutely central to the politics these days is the phenomenon of polarization. So I started thinking about polarization also in the context of this visit and what it can mean. And you will see I'm trying to put together several thoughts on this very much, this triangle between polarization, democracy, and war. Well, the first question, of course, is what is polarization and why is it deemed to be detrimental to democracy? And then the question, which is equally interesting, are all forms or manifestations of polarization dangerous, particularly dangerous for democracy? So the literature is massive, and I have only 25 minutes, so types of polarization, people talk about political and ideological polarization, socio-economic polarization, which is a major problem in today's world, particularly in the United States, the rising inequality, ethical polarization, on which I will say a few words. I studied philosophy, luckily, I guess, in this context, in Krakow many, many years ago, so some of it and I did specialize a bit in ethics, so that comes handy. You never know, that's the point, right? You study various things, you never know what's going to be useful one day. And then affective or mass polarization, which is the polarization of the society, which is shown to be growing in many, many countries. So what is cultural polarization? My main professional identification is political or cultural anthropologist. Roughly, in essence, it is the claim that the social political reality is binary. Often researchers use the word Manichaean. Manichaean religion, as some of you or more, all of you know, is a religion which emphasizes that the world is the eternal struggle between the forces of evil and the forces of good. And the opposite claim to binary Manichaean polarizing claim is a claim that emphasizes complexity, multilateralism, multiplicity, pluralism, moderation, nuance. Those are two options that are either in combat with each other, or there is an attempt to find some kind of middle ground. So, liberal democracy and ethical polarization. We are in the country that is experiencing the absolute horror of the Russian invasion. In liberal democracy, simply, we say that the key, most important virtue is moderation compromise, leads to compromise. Democracy is about finding compromise. Even, you can say, democracy should, at least ideally, tolerate expressions of doubt. Whereas, on the other hand, when you think about ethically about the situation here, you are definitely inclined, and it's completely understandable, of course, to be uncompromising in passing an ethical judgment. It is a Manichaean situation. This is a clash of the forces of evil and the forces of good. This is very natural to think like that. Well, the question then is, well, how to square those two things? One that is pushing towards compromise and the other that is pushing away from compromise because of the horror of the situation. So the tool I found, which I found many, many years ago already, is in the work of Yuri Lotman, who close to a semiotician, who close to his, the end of his life, wrote a little book, Kultura i Vzryw, Culture and Explosion, and it was translated into English. And the book is based on the very last few chapters, the simple premise that generally cultures, particularly political cultures, can be divided into two groups, binary and ternary. Binary cultures are those that dwell on polarization and actually constantly invoke it and use it. And as this is the quote from Lotman, in binary cultures, the change is explosive, violent, all-encompassing, revolutionary. The explosion penetrates life in its entirety, right? And of course, as you can see at the top, he thought that this was Russian culture. For a long process of gestation, but eventually it is a culture that is binary. And the West, as he writes, is by and large ternary. That's the way he sets it up. In ternary systems, democracy is a ternary system. The essence is compromise, finding the middle. Polarization in one domain, say in ethics, does not necessarily spill over to other domains. That the change is limited to one domain, right? And when you think about what is one of the key features of democracy that we often do not talk enough sufficiently, is the idea of, in the most abstract terms, of functional differentiation. Every area of life, every domain of life, every profession, however we divide the society, to some degree, ideally at least, should be self-governing. This is where democracy thrives, if there is a plurality, the range of various subdomains of life which are at least partially autonomous and self-governing. Autonomy is the key word here. So the idea of the ternary system and the idea of ethics being limited to only one domain, its own ethical, is, you know, when you start thinking about it, somehow compatible with the democratic system. So those are the kind of theoretical, general preliminaries. Let's see what happens with all of this when we start pushing it further. So, first thought, are all called polities, countries, political systems and their cultures binary or ternary, as Lotman was saying, Russia versus the West? Well, the answer is clearly no. I'm saying that after several years of studying the rise of right-wing populism, in all polities there's a competition between the people and political formations that, on the one hand, think in binary terms, and on the other, those who think or are willing to accept ternary solutions, ternary ways of thinking. So let's call them binarists versus ternarists. The picture is the Polish roundtable, which was clearly an exercise in the ternary culture, and then on the other hand, you have one of the demonstrators. I mean, the gesture, I guess, indicates that this is a binarist. That's actually the essential binary gesture, right? So, definition of liberal democracy. What am I talking about? We could spend several weeks here. I think the essence of democracy is relatively simple. It's the rule of majority, but electoral majority. I will not have time to explain that. This is not necessarily the sociological or cultural majority, but electoral majority, those who voted a certain way, the rule of such electoral majority constrained by the rule of law. Now, if you are a sociologist, anthropologist, someone who wants to look beyond economic explanations, politological explanations alone, you will start thinking about what is the guarantee that the system will hold. Well, the answer is people need to believe in the rule of law, right? And in order for that, you need to have a sufficiently developed pro-democratic, pro-legal culture, particularly political culture, which takes a lot of time, very complex process. It's not easy to have. But we know quite a bit about that culture. Since Aristotle, we know that the principal value of the democratic culture is moderation, of the ternary culture, right? Moderation is the essence of ternarism. There's this book by Aurelian Craitiu, Faces of Moderation, very good review of all the various conceptions of moderation. Then the book that is pretty famous, How Democracies Die, if you look at it, read it, you discover that there's quite a strong cultural argument in the book. Namely, Levitsky and Ziblatt talk about two virtues of democracy: toleration and forbearance. Forbearance is self-restraint. You know you can play the game to the maximum and push the others from other political options, but you refrain for the bigger, more important good of the whole system. So you can easily kind of place the politicians on the range from being maximalists in the sense, and on the other end, those who are willing to compromise. Trump, at least rhetorically, is a good example of someone who constantly violates the rules of toleration and forbearance. So in essence, this leads to a culture that at its center needs to have the readiness for compromise and rejection of extremism. Now, what is right-wing populism? That is, again, in 1 minute or 2 minutes. The essence of populism is dual polarization. Populism in general, as an ideology, postulates that there are good people and bad elites. The picture is sociologically absolutely false, because the society is so complex, elites are complex, the selection of elites constantly changes, and so on. So the claim of this ideological position is good people versus bad elite. Now, the populist becomes right-wing when you add to the idea of good people the idea of bad people. They can be people of another race, another nation, another ethnicity, another religion. And you create, again, another binary picture. So now you have two binaries, vertical and horizontal, and this is not the only feature of right-wing populism, but very essential and necessary. So you see that if you start defining liberal democracy, you start defining right-wing populism, you get with a very opposite systems. We could, again, use this terminology, ternary versus binary. Why is it so important? For all kinds of reasons, but impact of polarization on democracy is devastating, particularly on democratic legitimacy. If you have a political culture that is strongly polarized, a unifying principle of legitimacy, which is the essence of for operating well-functioning democratic system, is impossible to establish and maintain. The case that I'm looking at now is my native Poland, which ended up with the completely split legitimacy. The representatives of the former ruling party are still in control of at least 4 major institutions, and both sides mutually accuse the other of not accepting the decisions and legitimacy of the other side. It's a kind of a stalemate that's been going on now for a year since the election a year ago. And now, I will not have time to talk about it, but the examples of the binary systems in geopolitics or international relations are several. The very well known and absolutely central for the understanding of it is some elements of the situation here is the idea of neo-Eurasianism, particularly developed by Dugin. I even spent some time reading his manual of geopolitics, 800 pages. I suppose some of you have looked at it. It's quite a read, quite a, how should I call it? A bizarre adventure, but it's something there to take seriously. The relationship between those two guys, as you may know, is not very clear, but the structure of thinking is similar. Then there is Huntington with his famous Clash of Civilizations, which has been shown to be completely wrong-headed as a theoretical idea by many people, many researchers. Simply things do not work that way. I have no time to go through that. And then there is Mersheimer, some of you might have heard of it, of him, someone who represents the direction in foreign relations analysis called structural realism. He just presents the view that some of you may know it, just to refresh your memory, the system, international system is in the state of anarchy. There's no some controlling body. So the only thing that matters is power. Power that really matters is superpower. So the only thing of interest for people who think like Mersheimer is usually the binary situation of the contest between two superpowers. The problem with this view is that this country, my country of origin, the Baltic states, all of them are gone. They disappear. We are not only chess bits on the chessboard played by superpowers, we are simply just a battleground. That's the kind of the view. So the view is thoroughly, right, through and through binary. So is Ukrainian, I asked myself this question. I know a few things, read this and that about Ukraine. Is Ukrainian political culture binary or ternary? Well, in the spirit of the major line of thinking I introduced earlier, it's the wrong question. In political cultures and public spheres of all countries, you have a competition between binarists and ternarists. That's the essence of politics these days around the world in many countries. So the right questions are, or some of them, what is the size of each side? What are the arguments of each side? How are they organized? Who wins? Temporalities. Nothing is permanent in the world of politics. And why? So I come across this book, very interesting, From Memory Wars to a Common Future, Overcoming Polarization in Ukraine. This is a beautiful, precise example of ternary thinking, of the ternary thought in this country, among others. So binary cultures, I'm slowly moving toward conclusions, are totalizing and thus consistent with authoritarian rule. And that's Russia. At the moment, ternary solutions in Russia are absolutely marginal, almost underground, right? In the 90s that I studied more carefully, years ago in Russia, it was a different situation. It was still a possible contest, right? Ukraine has been historically subjected to tremendous pressures due to the clash between the two principles, binary coming from Moscow and ternary coming from the West. Many, many people wrote about it. But it is ternary side which is way stronger in Russia, right? And people I know also personally whose work I know, but there are many others, Yaroslav Hrycak, Tim Snyder, or Mykola Ryabchuk. They all talk about it in various ways, many others also. So if a polity, not just Ukraine, has a sufficiently strong ternary political culture and a system of ternary political institutions, this polity also has mechanisms that protect the system. This is sort of a bit, maybe too excessively abstract language, protect the system from the spillover of a binary vision from one domain to another. In other words, if you have a ternary system relatively well established, you can allow yourself to be binarist here and there, for example, in ethics. Some of the material for this thought came from the project I was initially associated with, then I had to move on to other duties, the 3 Ukrainian revolutions. Evidence of the very strong ternary culture. In essence, we know all of this better than I do, self-corrective mechanisms of the defective process of democratization, very few people have a doubt. But, on the other hand, anybody who studies democratization around the world, the history of democratization, has no doubt that the process is always defective. It has never worked without reversals, 2 steps forward, 1 step back in every country, including the principal suspects of easy, maybe some people think, democratization like the United Kingdom. So you have the defective process of democratization with self-corrective mechanism, and the goal of the 3 revolution was the return to the process of democratization to its path. It was not, it would be almost impossible to find evidence, if any, that it was a total upheaval against the idea of democratization. And then the last, I think, slide in the way of conclusion. Thinking in binary terms, evil versus good, is inescapable during the war. Does it endanger democracy? This was actually a question that was once posed to me. Binary ethical thinking is hard to avoid in the face of aggression, and it is effective for mobilization. I've studied social movements for about 30 years, at least, maybe more, and it is the binary frame is a very effective tool for mobilizing people against whoever they define as the enemy. But binary ethical thinking, ethical maximalism, practiced in a ternary system does not threaten the whole system with polarization. It does so in binary systems, which, famously described for Russia, for example, constitute single pyramids of power. I am very strongly convinced that this is not at all the situation in this country, and actually participating and thinking a lot about Russian revolutions and this enormous resilience and strength and courage shown by the people of this country is incredibly uplifting. So I am very, again, thankful for being here and for being allowed to share a few thoughts with you. Hope some of it is useful. I will be very happy to answer questions. Slava Ukraini.
Thank you, Professor, for giving us questions about checks and balances for our society to think through. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce our second keynote speaker, leading demographer, honor economist of Ukraine, Professor Ella Libanova. She is director of the Ptuha Institute for Demography and Social Sciences, academician of National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine. Ella Libanova is a leading Ukrainian demographer, European Commissioner expert of international expertise of World Economic Forum expert. And she's focusing currently on the situation, and she is one of the leading public intellectuals talking about the situation in Ukraine with Ukrainian society.
Шановні колеги, по-перше, я буду говорити українською мовою, тому прошу.
Dear colleagues, first of all, I'm going to be speaking in Ukrainian, so please make sure you have the headset. Second of all, quite often we ask ourselves, what is the goal of the war, Russia's war against Ukraine? What do they want? In reality, they want not only to destroy Ukrainian nation, they want to destroy the nation, not just the state, I mean a political nation. And this is very different. This makes us assess the angles of the war and the prospects of the war differently, and our goals and what we will believe to be the victory. You know, back in 2022, me, as most of us were sure, well, what do you mean victory? Going back to the borders of 1991, now I understand that this is not the key. The key for us is to preserve Ukrainian population, because if even we will bring back all the territories, but there will be no Ukrainian population, we will have lost people in vain. We will have fought in vain. And speaking about our future, I want to point your attention to the people components. And here I wrote the post-war development of Ukraine, but I actually should have said the existence of Ukraine, because I'm completely confident that the state, the country, it's not plants and factories, it's not the territory, this is the people.
Я хочу вам показати
And in this context, I want to show you the dynamics of the population in Ukraine for the time of our independence. Scary, right? Here we have a few elements. First, the most obvious, this is of course the natural decrease of population. And in Ukraine, through different reasons, and due to the aging and due to the fact that from certain year, an average woman doesn't have that many kids as it is needed in the total filter rate. Probably whoever knows this term better, it is needed that an average woman have 2.15 children, but from 60s, 1960, it's not there. And that means that every new generation, maybe at least a little bit, but less than the previous one. And in the result, if I had the time to show you the pyramid, it's not the pyramid. It has nothing similar with the pyramid. This is a demographic rhombus, because for many years, for example, we have women of the age of 65, we have more than 5-year-old girls. This is the situation. So you can see the rate for so many years, but mortality for a few years even before COVID, and I'm referring to this data on purpose because COVID changed the situation very much. The structure of mortality, a lot of things not comparable appeared there. So the average expectancy in Ukraine was the lowest in Europe, and in talking about women, the only country that had it worse was Moldova, and man, it was a catastrophe. 42% of 42% of 20-year-olds, they don't make it to 60. So if to compare it to Poland, that I like to compare things to, because demographically we have a lot of things in common, 26%. This is the second reason. So there is certain natural decline, and it is characteristic to all the countries. In European countries, Germany, they compensated due to immigrants, and they would have the speed of depopulation higher than in Ukraine. But our migration, they were strengthened this tendency, not compensation. And second thing, please pay attention to the following. The first drop is 2014, when we lost 6 million. The second drop, it's 2022. And in 2022, we lost a lot as well. And if in 2014 it was more due to occupation, then in 2022 it was more to migration. And overall, you can see, and I'm not going to talk about 35. I don't think it has to be even here. I just want you to see the middle of 2024 within the border of 1991. It's 35 million on the controlled territory. This is 31 million. You see what is the huge difference? And I will say right away that this is our calculation, the calculation that is done by our institute. It requires a very complex methodology, and it's in the mobile operators and all the registries we can find, and the registry of all the registers we can find. And yeah, health, we are also using the system at least to try to see how many children were born, and they're actually providing more information, more precise than the registry of Ministry of Justice. But the specification of our statistics are it is working to its maximum during the war, and this is the data we have. Maybe we're wrong, but doesn't look like it. And the main driver of the dynamics, demographic dynamics in Ukraine, is indeed migration. Here, I'm showing the data about the population size of those who are registered in the country of the European Union by the Directive of Temporary Protection. So it's not all of those who left. As far as you understand, part of people, they don't get registered due to different reasons. Part of people, they left not to EU countries. And if we take a look at the latest data, and this is Eurostat, as of 31st of August this year, it's 4.2 million those that are registered under this directive. And the Chief Commissioner on Refugees issues, they say it's 6 million, but there's this game. They give this number of our migrants in Russia. It's 1,200,000. I don't want to comment, but this number is not moving at all, not even 100,000, and from 2022. Can anyone believe that? That's first thing. And second thing, how do they even count migrants? If, let's say, Mariupol was captured, are they migrants or not migrants? And we can continue here forever. That's why I don't really like the data from the High Commissioner. I'm taking that data from Eurostat. And by the way, if anyone is interested, I am also monitoring as for what our border service gives us. If we take a look at how many people left starting from 24th of February 2022, the last thing that I saw, it was probably as of the 1st of September, so it was quite good. So how many people left? How many people came in? If if it's a cumulative saldo, if it's someone went for a vacation or a business trip, they don't really affect that number. They left once, they got back once. And when we talk about this cumulative balance, this is just about those who left and who came in. 2 million. This is the figure 2. And quite honestly, I don't really understand where the other 2 comes from. Because when we argue with our foreign colleagues, or even better with the people from the office, from the International Organization of Migration, or High Commissioner for refugees, they say that you have bad accounting system. Okay, but maybe not that much. If it was a difference of 100,000, 200,000, but okay, maybe I would stay quiet. But 2 million, that's too much. Maybe someone left through Russia when on the south it was all that story. Maybe they were leaving through Russia, but okay, but not 2 million. Someone swam through Tisa. Okay, but not 2 million. So something is wrong with numbers here. I myself personally, I suspect that actually
Менше.
our registered people is the number is less there, but there's double count, and double count is something that is being played by all the poor countries, and I'm far from the thought that it happens in Switzerland or Germany, but something tells me that it could be maybe and most likely in Bulgaria and Romania and maybe even Poland, with all due respect. What is it connected to? Due to what? Very simple, because the local authorities, they get subsidies for those refugees or military migrants. I actually like this one better. And if there is some economic incentive to show more, trust me, there are a lot of ways on how this can be done. And just simple, one person goes from one place to another, but it's not maybe taken off the registry right away. That's it, and that's enough. And since I cannot speak, this is the data from Eurostat. I cannot say that they're not of any use. We will be using them and operating with them. One thing that I can say that additionally to this 3-4 million, I think it's approximately 3 million of our military immigrants, and including countries outside of EU. So first of all, it's Great Britain, the US, Canada, and a little bit of Argentina and Brazil, but not that much.
Ще, як мінімум,
So
3 мільйони.
more, at least 3 million of our labor migrants are left. And I want you to all understand that not everyone who left abroad, they left fleeing the war. Not all of them. Let's say 24th of February, according to the data of our border service, approximately 100,000, they crossed the border from our side. And that point, it was people from Kharkiv and Kiev almost solely. It is not possible it wasn't possible from Kharkiv, from Kiev, to get to the western regions as of 24th of February that day. And I'm talking about western regions, which is Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, Moldova. So those borders, well, most likely, part of people, they left because they had family, they had friends abroad, they had work on their labor migration, and they just used this opportunity. And I'm not judging anyone here, absolutely. I'm just stating the facts and the statistics. And 3 more million, at least, our labor migrants are there. So overall, I believe that this 6 million, it is there abroad. The worst case, if I'm wrong and Europeans are right, that it's up to 9 million. It's just for you to understand the scale
Цього явища.
of this phenomena. Who is there? This is once again the data from the latest Eurostat as for 31st of August, and we see that 1/3 are children, adolescents under 18 years old. A third is a quarter are young people aged 18-34. Before, it was almost solely young women. Approximately in the middle of 2023, beginning and the mid 2023 was a very small amount of men, 18% that age. I mean 1864. Now it is a third. What happened? That's a big question, a huge question.
Чим це все загрожує нам?
And how, why would it be dangerous to us? All of the story, what are the threats? First of all, migrants, when in this young age, and this is the age structure that is significantly different from the age structure of those who are in Ukraine. If we have 1/5, it's older than 65, then here it's only 6%. So mostly this is youth and young women. So this is indeed will strengthen and is already worsening the process of demographic aging. And this is a threat, and it's exceeding. Another thing, second thing that I wanted to point your attention to, it happens so that we are threatened by another immigration wave that can be formed most likely after the martial law is cancelled, because the families will get reunited. The question is where? If it was men and women approximately in half, then it would be a chance that they already reunited there and let them stay there. And I actually believe that the fact that people left, it's good. It's better than here they would maybe die. And I'm not joking. This is true. They're alive. We can count on getting them back. And if they don't get back, they will be alive. And there's nothing more important to me personally than human life. But for the state of Ukraine, I cannot say that this is that good. And let's see what is happening here, except for all that. Well, the first part I already covered, and where are our people concentrated? In reality, they're concentrated in three countries. First is Germany, then it's Poland, and third one is Czech Republic. And in Poland and Czech Republic, the number of our migrants is huge, and it's 3% if we compare it to the overall population. That's a lot. That means that there could be a question, an issue raised, or, as they said, the mayor of New York will speak Spanish. Maybe the mayor of Warsaw will start speaking Ukrainian soon. So what is happening? The dynamics, well, Germany is it's all quite transparent. They started going there gradually. Of course, the first month, the biggest amount of migrants was in Poland, and this is clear because it's a close country, it's common border, common language, and so on. And starting from autumn 2022, the amount of Ukrainians in Poland started going down. And there are a few explanations. First, they continued. They started moving further to Germany, to Great Britain, Netherlands, by the way, to Romania. A lot of people go there. And to Germany, well, maybe due to the reasons of a very good assistance. And talking about Great Britain, it's not that generous assistance. It's more about trying to stick somewhere. They're looking for opportunities to work, and this is the peculiarity about our immigrants, and that's what differentiates them from other refugees from Syria and so on. And how does this happen now? Well, for 20 months, 330,000 plus. Well, is it a lot or no? I don't know. I don't see anything that drastic here. But what else could it be? Why the amount of our migrants abroad is not growing that much, and why is it going down in Poland? That's what I'm suspicious of. But Polish, and we're now working on common research on the foundation of Stepan Bandura, but they're not agreeing to this. I think that most of the Ukrainians in Poland, they get this residency card in Poland, Karta Polaka, and then they are going off the registry as those who are in the list of those that are under protection. And Polish people say that they are going to other countries. They're taking some not qualified jobs, and they're going there. But just think about that: 70% of our women, 75 plus, they have higher education. This is a fantastic indicator, just fantastic. And this is explained solely to the fact that most of the women, they are from Kiev, they're from Kharkiv, where it is a high level of education in population in that area. And once again, it was people leaving that were counting on something, on some assistance or some opportunities. So we are losing a huge human capital. We're losing not only the physical carriers of that capital, but we are also losing the most educated, the most efficient, the most mobile and active, and so on. By the way, this data about 70%, this is not my data. This is data from Polish and German counterparts. And I looked at how they get employed. Eurostat provided information on the amount of Ukrainian migrants unemployed. Well, the numbers, well, you know what? Look at that. I took out the number of moms with small children, because obviously they cannot work, and I also minus the children and people over 65. I also removed some with chronic diseases and so on. So in the end, it is approximately 16, 18%. This is very little percentage abroad. So our people work. What does it mean that they work? That means that they can rent an apartment, well, any sort of housing, and they can move around. They can move and feel comfortable. And the key thing, just recently there was a discussion with Polish, not a scientist, but with business and the representatives of the government. They are very openly saying that they are personally interested for every Ukrainian to stay there. And except for all the registrational matters and decisions that were taken, from my point of view, the scariest part for us, this is the simplification of nostrification of diplomas, even the medical ones. And so that means that a Ukrainian doctor can go to Poland and be employed as a doctor, not like before when they can be only a nurse or something like that, but a doctor. Yes, you need to learn the language, but let's agree, someone who knows Ukrainian, they will probably start speaking Polish in 2-3 weeks. They will understand you from the third day, but they will start speaking in just a couple of weeks. And in this context, we have a problem appearing. I will be frank, I saw it back in 2022, and I started raising the awareness, ringing all the bells everywhere I could on the Bankova Street, the president's office, because I understood that Europe is aging. They really need the workforce very much. And unfortunately, today, we cannot count on bilateral agreements with any of the countries, whatever they promise. Every country from Germany to Romania, they are interested in our migrants, and hence we can push through diplomatic channels, and we can count on help only from international society, the Council of Europe, that can protect Ukraine, understanding, knowing that Europe needs a very populated Ukraine with a powerful army and so or less acceptable economy. Separate countries in this meaning of, in this sense of word, they will not come to help us. And this is a huge task for diplomats. I don't know how they're going to handle this, whether they will handle this and how they will agitate all of this. But there is a chance. And what is waiting for us? Well, first of all, with any conditions, even if we bring back not even 6, 9 millions, the depopulation problem in Ukraine is inevitable. It is inevitable due to the fact that the potential of demographic growth is exhausted. Not enough youth, too little youth, and too many older people. As you can understand, it's the youth that gives birth and the older ones that die. And here, to really count on any shifts, I wouldn't. I am expecting depopulation, and it's almost irrevocable. And except for that, it's also going to be the deepening of the process of aging. What does it mean? First of all, and the most obvious, this is the problem with pensions, medical insurance, and social package, and so on. And besides that, this is an inevitable growth of load on working population, at least in the form of taxes, at least. Then it's going to be a decrease in population density, especially in certain areas. Well, the population was never equally distributed, frankly speaking, as in all the countries, but we are not an exclusion here. And then I'm going to be talking about clusters that I see. But for example, Kherson region, if before the war it wasn't very, very dense in population, that after the war it's not going to get better. And before the war, the average density of population was 45 people for a square kilometer. In Western Europe is 100. Then you can understand that it wasn't very much. And I know that Norwegians, they have it 14, but that's sorry, it's very different structure and economy. It's very different. But having the structure of economy that we had, it is going to be lack of people. This is absolutely going to happen. In the Ministry of Economy, they calculated that we need additionally 4.5 million of working hands. I don't fully agree with this, even though the deficit of labor force is going to be there. I don't agree because they, as far as I understand, they were calculating this without the changes of the structure of economy. And this is something that we will have to do, this radical change, otherwise we will not survive. What are the compensators? Well, the most obvious ones, this is the improvement of health, activization, and increase of mobility, level of education, and so on and so on. This is quite clear. What else could be there? We must change the system of administration. And I am very sure that we had the first step when we started decentralization, but this was just the first step. We need to bring it to its logical finalization and go to poly-subject management. Otherwise, it's not going to work. We need to change, have some changes to the model of economy. We need to go switch to that model that doesn't require a lot of labor force. So it could be something like Israel model of economy. And the last thing that we need to do, it's logical things that are connected to growing not human but social capital. So preserve the social cohesion and all the networks and so on.
До чого ми будемо змушені йти?
And two more words about what we will have to move towards. Of course, Ukraine is going to have at least 3 territorial clusters. The first territorial cluster is the northeast, and this is the borders closer to Russian Federation and Belarus. It's going to exist, but at least 5 kilometers, 30 and 100 kilometers. This is a completely different model of economy that is going to be there, and some things it's just you cannot do there. And I believe that Kharkiv will manage Kharkiv region, but Chernihiv and Sumy, it's something to be worked on. The second cluster, this is the southeast. This is indeed the areas where ports are the city-forming parties. First of all, in what state we are going to get them, and what's going to be happening to Black Sea overall, whether it's going to be free or even shipping or no. There are no guarantees, and this is another question. The third cluster, this is the Western Ukraine. Everyone is hoping that this is going to be the driver of the economic development overall. I can only say that ecologists, they state that ecological capacity of Western cluster is
І на Львівщині. Is that so?
It's going to be a little bit on Frankivsk region and Lviv, not on Bukovina or Volyn or Zakarpattia. There's nothing there even nearly. That's why you don't need to be very optimistic. The cluster, just the last thing. The cluster that I'm really hoping for, this is the central Ukraine. And indeed, a separate role will be played by Metropolis, says that will, of course, stay a metropolis under any conditions in Ukraine. I'm confident that the victory is going to be there. The question is when, under what conditions, and how many human lives we will have to pay for it more. Thank you.
Dear professor, thank you very much for your comprehensive overview with the demographic situation of Ukrainian society. And now, last but not least in our agenda, a musical part. I would like to invite to the stage Asmati Chibalashvili, who is the Deputy Director of the Institute of Problems of Contemporary Art, National Academy of Art of Ukraine, who was our fellow during the last year, and also Irma Godkova, who will be helping, and she is a MA student of Odessa National Musical Academy named by Nezhdanov. So today we'll be hearing a new piece by Asmati, written by Asmati during her fellowship, which is called 7 Basic Emotions of War. Dear Asmati, dear Irma, thank you very much for this powerful performance. And I would like to close today's event and thank you all distinguished guests for being with us. However, I also want to invite you to refreshments. And if you have any questions, we would be happy to answer them during the refreshment part. Thank you.